Hello and good day, Mike Adcock with an update on Typhoon Haiyan, a Philippine name Yolanda, now emerging in the South China Sea. This brief is based on data through 3 Zulu on the 9th of November or 11 a.m. Philippines time. Taking a look at Haiyan at this point, 610 kilometers west-southwest of Manila, or about 950 kilometers east-southeast of Hue in Vietnam. It is continuing to move off toward the west at 30 kilometers per hour, and the winds, according to JMA, at 90 knots, gusting to 130 knots, or 165 kilometers per hour, gusting to 240. Current pressure is 940 hectopascal. The information from JTWC right now is 115 gusting to 140 knots, or in kilometers per hour, 215 gusting to 260. We have seen an overall weakening trend here on satellite, although this is still a very powerful system. I mean, at least looking at the JTWC track, I mean, this is still the equivalent of a Category 4 hurricane, so a very, very strong system, very tightly banded, and we're starting to see, if you notice in these last few frames, an eye is starting to re-emerge. Get my laser pointer going on here. There we go. Starting to see an eye re-emerge here with this system. So we've seen a rebuilding eye wall, and this system should intensify some in the near term. The water temperatures are a little are not as favorable as they were in the Western Pacific, and we are starting to run out of time before it starts affecting land tomorrow afternoon. Taking a look at the Dvorak analyses, general consensus about a 5.0, JTWC a little higher with a 5.5 for the final T. The current intensity is all over the board though, 5.0 from JMA, 5.5 from NESDIS, and 6.5 from JTWC. The advanced Dvorak techniques, 5.1, which would get you about 92 knots or 962 hectopascal. A little difference in analysis from NESDIS. NESDIS is still using that CDO method, so center is embedded in white, going with a 5.0 data T. And that's what the final T was based off of. JTWC, they're using a convection wrap method where they set up a log 10 spiral and measure out this banding feature with that 1.4 tenths. So a complete loop plus another 4 tenths. That gets you a data T of 4.5. They opted to go with, they didn't mention here, but they opted to go with 5.5 for the final T. I think that might be a shade high. Anyway, taking a look at the JMA track, like I said, this has emerged into the South China Sea, affecting the Spratly Islands right now, Paracel Islands. This is going to continue to move off to the west-northwest and then start affecting coastal Vietnam starting tomorrow afternoon. And the tracks are a little off here. There is about 115 nautical mile spread in them as they approaches Vietnam. And what we're dealing with here is this system is surrounding the southwestern periphery of the subtropical ridge. So it's getting this kind of a beta advection or a beta curve up to the north. How quickly it turns, that's going to be the real big concern, and this is what we're going to have to continue to monitor. This system is approaching Da Nang and Hue. Again, tomorrow afternoon, this will continue to move up to the northwest and affecting portions of the delta later on into the beginning of next week. Here's the last track out of Yolanda. Again, starting to exit out of the Philippines area of responsibility. Signal 1 still remains in effect for northern Palawan and Puerto Princesa City. Elsewhere, public storm signals have been lowered. Right now, looking at rainfall amounts of 5 to 15 millimeters per hour, so still some moderate to heavy showers with this system. This is going to continue to be, transportation has been halted both by sea and air. Right now, Philippines is starting to transition into more of the recovery phase. I've been tracking, the news agencies, following along on Twitter as well, the Twitter feed is about to explode, just the amounts of reports that people are talking about, but still having a lot of difficulty getting a lot of factual information out of the central Philippines. There are some preliminary images coming out in portions that were not as severely hit. Pretty devastating images nonetheless. There are reports out of Tacloban City of the airport being completely leveled out. A lot of destructions out there in Tacloban City, but still waiting on any, a lot of, I guess the bottom line here is, this is still early on in the game. Communications in this part have been significantly hampered to almost non-existent. So, it's best not to jump to a whole lot of conclusions at this point, as emergency crews and officials are starting to sift through what's going on out there. Right now, though, there are preliminary reports of at least 100 dead. That's just from some of the initial reports out of Tacloban City. Again, we're going to have to continue to monitor this. There's going to be a lot of fluctuations. Not a whole lot of fact right now. A lot of speculation. We need to continue to focus on, keeping a focus on the facts and not getting too caught up in rumors. That being said, as the Philippines continues their recovery phase, Vietnam is starting to hamper down now. This is the Vietnamese hydrometeorological agency's track on Haiyan. Again, looking for the system to affect Da Nang and Hue as it nears the coast. May see a parallel situation, much like what Vietnam's showing, paralleling along the coast, and then still affecting Haiyan. This is going to be a big rainmaker nonetheless. Here's JTWC's track. This one brings it a little further west and actually makes landfall in and around Da Nang. Actually, closest point of approach per JTWC is about 56 nautical miles. Again, Hue, Hanoi, all going to be impacted, as well as portions of Laos. So definitely something to monitor there. Currently 115 knots, gusting to 140, some near-term strengthening, and then should start to see it weakening as it makes landfall. Right now, JTWC is going for landfall with intensity of 95 knots, gusting to 115. In kilometers per hour, that's 175, gusting to 215. In addition to the heavy, in addition to the high winds, very heavy rainfalls. Again, the same situation as what we're dealing with in the Philippines, although to a somewhat lesser extent, but still looking for heavy rains, flooding conditions, landslides possible along central and northern Vietnam. Again, looking at precipitation totals, 150 to 200 millimeters over the course of the next few days. This is valid through morning hours of the 12th. Could see some isolated areas there south of the Delta where you're tipping toward 300 millimeters of rainfall. Again, Haiyan's moving over the South Pacific, or South China Sea rather, so not a whole lot of observations to go off of. Some isolated showers, but again, not a whole lot. Keeping an eye on, let's see, this observation right here. This is from the ship Desh Virat. This is an Indian ship passing through there. Again, the only observation we're really getting at this point, north winds there, 33 kilometers per hour. Otherwise, relatively fair conditions. It's mostly cloudy skies. Pressure still fair at 1,006 hectopascal. So, again, we're going to continue to monitor the system, both twofold here, the recovery efforts in the Philippines, as well as the system starting to bear down on Vietnam. You can continue to monitor. We're posting information at westernpacificweather.com, as well as on Twitter and Facebook. A lot of good information out there, on both sides of it, the Vietnam issue, and of course what we're all following right now is the recovery efforts in the Philippines. You could also post along on storm2k.org. There's a discussion going on there. And we're going to continue to monitor the progress of this system. Thank you all for tuning in. Again, be safe out there, and have a great day.